Channel, the newlywed and my regular partner, Chris Carter, I'm not surprised. Like, of course, Gronkowski's not leaving the NFL. The money is in the money discrepancy between what he can make in the NFL, $9 million next year, and what he'd make anywhere else was huge. He's only 28 years old, and the list of guys as good as Gronk is, who walk away that young, is incredibly small. So we thought he was probably coming back, but the door was open to him not.
Right.
What it means for the Pats, they have their best player not named Tom Brady back in the fold. Like, it's as simple as that. But one of the I know that we have seen Brady do well without Gronk. We've seen Brady do well without Edelman. But guess what every player wants? All their best teammates there, especially when you're a quarterback. To have Edelman and Gronk back next year, haven't had them both healthy in a couple of years.
Right.
It's enormously important for them.
Well, the interesting thing is this, the reports seem to change every day, but the reports that he had thought about retiring or leaving in training camp and he might retire and all that, that report was based on apparently him not being happy with the atmosphere in New England. He wasn't having fun. They didn't want him to train the way he wanted to train. So that tells me, if that's true, it wasn't that he had lost the love for football. It was that he wasn't happy with the way things were going in New England. So being that he still loves football, apparently, and I think he looked at it and said, you know what, I'm in a great situation. I got a chance to keep winning Super Bowls. I'm playing with the best quarterback, arguably, of all time. Cooler heads prevailed, and he decided to stay.
And don't forget, he really got beat up this year. He had a really bad concussion, and injuries like that will always make you second-guess exactly what it is you're doing and
he may
why
have still
you're
been
doing
concussed when he said that.
He could still be concussed for making the decision last night.
Well, and I think you saw some of that frustration boil over in that play on Tre'Davious White. That was a really dirty play, and that's not who Gronk has been over the course of his career. And by the way, you mentioned the environment there. After this year, Gronk will only have 1 year left on his deal, no guaranteed money left on his deal. If he really wants out of New England, he can get himself out of New England, and he would be a valuable trade asset for 31 other teams.
And it could coincide maybe when Brady moves on.
All right, let's stick with stars in Boston. Just when you thought it was safe to write the Celtics off, because they had lost 9 of 15 before the All-Star break, the Celtics have some of you believing again. Winners of 4 straight since the All-Star break, including a 134-106 blowout of Charlotte last night. Kyrie Irving leading the way, 34 points. Talks about his team bouncing back after the game.
I think that for the first few games, we've done a great job of responding, and we just want to keep it up because the season definitely doesn't end tomorrow. So we have a lot more games to consistently get better, and I'm looking forward to it.
So the Celtics have won 4 in a row. The competition hasn't been tremendous of the games they played, but it's still a 4-win streak that they have sort of strung together. Did everyone jump off the Celtics bandwagon too soon, Nick?
No. The skepticism about if Boston is a team that, forget making the NBA Finals, if Boston is a team that we think can even make the Eastern Conference Finals, that skepticism is well-founded, and beating the Pistons, Knicks, Grizzlies, and Hornets does not change. I'm sorry, does not change my opinion on this. Okay, just to be totally transparent here, those 4 teams are combined 45 games under 500. It was a great win last night. Kyrie was spectacular throughout the 3 quarters he played. Didn't even have to play in the 4th quarter. But the reason people jumped on the Celtics bandwagon, despite losing Gordon Hayward, was they had 2 young guys, a rookie and a second-year player, who were playing like stars the first 3 months of the year, in Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. Jason Tatum, the first 3 months of the year, was shooting 51% from the field and 47% from 3. In 2018, the last 2 months, 42% from the field, 36% from 3. Jaylen Brown was shooting 48% and 41%. It's now down to 43 and 32. So they're 2 wing guys. They're 2 great young forwards. Both have seen their field goal percentage and three-point percentage drop about 10 points from the first 3 months, last 2 months. What does that mean? it means it's all on Kyrie. And against the better teams, Kyrie won't be enough, as great as he's been. You mentioned earlier, might be fourth or fifth in the MVP voting. Kyrie's been outstanding, but that's why there's skepticism. The Celtics do not have a good enough offense, in my eyes, to be a serious contender, forget for the championship, just in the East. So no, this 4-game winning streak doesn't change my opinion on that.
Yeah, look, anybody that was thinking that they were going to make the Eastern or the finals, the NBA finals over Cleveland, it was all either you were just flat out wrong, or you thought Cleveland was in worse shape than they were. And they were in bad shape before the trades. But still, LeBron is so much better than everybody else in the Eastern Conference. And now that he has a pretty good supporting cast, to think they won't win the East is ridiculous. I mean, Boston is not that great of a team. They're a good team. They're very well coached. Brad Stevens is excellent. Kyrie is one of the top 5 point guards in the league. But as you said, they are relying on a 19 and a 20-year-old.
Right.
Those young players don't win in the NBA, not at playoff time.
And those young players, by the way, are going to be awesome. If we redraft,
going forward,
if we redrafted this past year's draft, Jason Tatum's in the discussion to be the #1 pick of that draft. Maybe he would be the number. I think Donovan Mitchell probably would be, but Jason Tatum's been great.
He looks like he'll be a star.
Jaylen Brown's been really good, and I don't, when I talk about his shooting percentage, doesn't give him credit for what a good defender he's been. And so it is not a knock on those guys. But what's the last time a rookie, speaking of Tatum, made an impact for a good team in the playoffs?
The last one that comes to my mind, I'm thinking there's had to be someone since then, but the last one that comes to my mind is Magic Johnson in 1980 when he was the MVP of the finals, but he also was playing with an MVP in Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
And for good teams, like you mentioned, don't rely on rookies in the playoffs. You just can't. And people got very mad at me because I said this year's Celtics team is not much better and might be a slightly lesser version of last year's Celtics team. And the reason I would say that is this. I understand last year's team didn't have Jason Tatum, but they did have Jay Crowder in that spot playing the best basketball of his career. They had Avery Bradley playing the best ball of his career. Al Horford was slightly better last year than he's been this year, or about the same. Oh, but last year's team didn't have Kyrie. No, but they had Kyrie's way better than Isaiah Thomas. But last year's Isaiah Thomas, that one-off season, in that system, in that season, was as good as Kyrie's been this year. So, like, for all those reasons, that's why this team went out and got Gordon Hayward, because they needed to be better than they were last year. So what was that team last year? Yeah, it was the 1 seed. It was also a team that needed 7 games to beat Chicago in the first round.
And could have lost if Rondo doesn't get hurt.
The feeling you get with this team is after that stretch they put together where the rookies played great, it seemed like they only played great when Kyrie played great. It felt like...
Well, they were 22-4 at one point.
Yes, but that's when Tatum and that's when those...
Since then.
Since then, it seems like the last couple weeks or so, when he plays great, they play great. And it's different than when a LeBron James plays great. And they can't run their entire... I mean, they can't take it all the way through the postseason with just Kyrie being the main guy.
Just look at the roster. I mean, it's a mediocre roster in a bad conference. I mean, the only way they win the East is if Cleveland just falls. Cleveland would lose the East. It wouldn't be Boston winning it. It would be Cleveland, for whatever reason, just totally underperforming. And that's not even to mention Toronto, who is a more balanced team than Boston. Toronto is good offensively and defensively. Boston is good defensively, but not offensively.
Right now, in the first round, Boston would either play Philadelphia or Milwaukee. Either one of those teams could beat Boston. I mean, and in the second round, they'd play Cleveland, where they would be heavy underdogs. Like, it is just who they are this year. That is not an indictment. They still, by the way, they either have the Lakers pick this year or the Kings pick next year. They have all these future assets coming. They have Gordon Hayward coming back. Kyrie seems happy as can be. The future is bright. Yeah. But for who they are this year, the 22-4 was the mirage, not the 22-15.
That's more who they are.
That's more who they are.
Chris Broussard, where were you back in 1998?
I was starting my job at the New York Times, covering the New Jersey Nets.
What?
Wait till you hear what John Gruden has to say about the year 1998. We're going to go back and you're going to party like it was that year next on First Things First.